the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless and awe and wonder. The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter?
Hello, it is good to be back here with you and to share some thoughts with you. We have, in our study here at North Point, we have kind of arrived at the end of this one section about the red letters of Jesus, some of the things that he said, but we're going to take just a little bit of a turn and and look at him a little more closely. Look at Jesus a little more closely. You know, people believe some really crazy things about God, what he's like, what he does. I'll tell you, after a lifetime of talking with people and counseling them through countless life dramas, I feel like I've heard it all when it comes to what people believe about God. And I think it's because we live in a crazy world where people can really make up any definition of God they want. Pretty much anything and everything is fair game. Where people can ascribe any attributes they want to God. Where God can be defined by culture or by national borders or traditions or by life experiences or by the mystical feelings that people have when they contemplate the existence of God, or simply what we hope God to be, or really sometimes by just the loudest voice or the latest teaching. That's what we believe. That's where we get our beliefs about God, seems like. Now here's the line that I want to draw today. It's a pretty bold line. Jesus is God. Those three words seem so simple, but I gotta tell you, they are profound and life-altering if we believe what we say. What makes Christianity so different? Jesus. Not laws and rules and traditions and church history. No, Jesus does. Not even theology. Theology is the study of God. Not even theology, as important as it is, can define God adequately. But Jesus does. Are you ready for some theology this morning? Colossians 1 verses 15 and 19 say this: the Son, meaning Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him. It's kind of funny how people are more comfortable talking about God than they are about Jesus. Even among churchgoers. I don't know, it seems like this abstract concept of God is more socially acceptable to speak about. Religious fanatics talk about Jesus. My dad was pretty funny when it came to this. He was a church leader, and he knew his Bible okay, but his faith was deep and pretty profound. But it was really funny because if I wanted to get under my dad's skin just a little bit, and by the way, I did that with people in my annoying Christian college and seminary days. I don't do it anymore. Well, not very much anyway. If I wanted to get underneath my dad's skin, I would just start talking about Jesus, and he would talk about God, and I would talk about Jesus, and he'd talk about God, and it was funny because I always knew he was uncomfortable with that. There was something about the the personal, real humanity of Jesus, that it never struck a comfortable chord with him. Now check this out. In Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, we read these words. In the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son. For thousands of years throughout history, the great patriarchs and prophets enlightened people to the reality of God. That's just what they did. But when Jesus came, everything changed. According to the Bible, the last days of human history arrived when Jesus came. And it was time for the life and words of Jesus to speak to people. There was a shift. There was a moment in history where everything changed. It went from this to that. We know that. All of history changed when Jesus came. The author of Hebrews says that in these last days, Jesus is speaking. And through his life and his death, and ultimately through his resurrection, who God was and who God is became clear for all of us. That section in the first chapter of Hebrews continues in verse 3, and we read these words. The Son, Jesus, is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. It says that Jesus is the radiance. The word radiance means reflected brightness. Radiance is what mirrors the light coming from something else. It says Jesus is the radiance of God's glory. Now, I got to tell you, there's a church word right there. Glory. It means splendor or brightness, magnificence, excellence, preeminence. It can even mean things like dignity or grace. It is the glory of God is the majesty of God that belongs to him as the supreme and absolute creator and ruler of the universe. So Jesus is the radiance of God's glory. And it says here also that he is the exact representation. Exact representation, it's kind of a cool word. It comes from the word that describes an instrument that was used for engraving or carving the impression or the likeness of something else. So Jesus is the exact representation, the exact expression of the image of God. Exact representation means this precise, detailed reproduction of the characteristics of another. And it concludes here by saying the exact representation of his being. His being. Being. That word means reality. Our being is the quality or nature of our personhood. Our being is our essence. It's what something really is at its core. It's most basic stuff. Jesus is God's being. Whatever value previous revelations or ideas of God people have, or even what our personal perceptions of what God are, they fall short of what this passage says. There are many ideas that to some degree reflect God's glory, but Jesus, crucified and risen from the dead, alone reflects the full brilliance of his glory. Some of our concepts may, to some extent, represent God, but Jesus alone is the exact reflection of God's character. Everything that we need to know about God, every important definition, every notion or intellectual wrinkle that truly makes a difference in our lives can be found in the words and the actions and in the character of Jesus. Some previous pictures of him may reflect aspects of God's being, but the Son, Jesus, alone reveals God's very essence. And that's why Jesus is so important. So as we close this week by coming to the table of communion as we do, it makes sense, I think, more than ever to remember Jesus, to recognize his death on the cross and his resurrection from the tomb to defeat evil, to defeat death, and to give us this new life that we possess, that we receive by faith. It is right and it is proper to take time to remember him. And in this moment, with the bread and the juice, we are reminded that he is still alive, and he is still the radiance of God's glory in our lives and in the world around us. So, I challenge you, walk fully in his presence as you go where you go this week. And until next time, see ya.
I sought the Lord, and he answered me, and delivered me from every fear. Those who look on him are radiant, they'll never be the same, they'll never be the same. This poor man